This is Izzy Dakota Jones here, and hanging out with the Art of Doing podcast again. And we'll be talking to a friend of mine in the south of France, actually, Hellmut Wolf, who's a sax player, flute player. Wow, he has a Wolf Digital Entertainment Company. They're based in the south of France, Hamburg, Germany. In Australia, in Melbourne, Australia. Yeah, he's got places all over the world. Miami, Florida, different places like that. He's really interesting dude. He writes his own songs, records, distributes, has a hand in videos. His digital entertainment company is really big. It's doing really well. We're going to talk to him about the music industry in general, from his standpoint of being a musician / promoter / producer. He wears a lot of different hats, and very interesting cat, very interesting dude. We'll be talking to Hellmut tonight and getting some viewpoints on what's going on in Europe and how things go in the music scene over there right now. And we'll sit down and talk to Hellmut and find out what's going on and how things are over on the other side of the pond in the south of France. So we'll be talking to Hellmut Wolf in a little bit. Stay tuned. Tell me all about yourself as far as like when you first started playing music. I heard that you played flute first, and then you started out playing saxophone, right, as a second instrument?
That's correct. I started playing flute at 14. Before that, at 12, I started as a roadie, which was interesting because I learned a lot from the main roadie of the band I was working for, one mixing, and all the technology that goes around with the band. That was before I actually had become a musician, and that was very important for me in my career as a musician, that I know what's going on in terms of mixing, and I know how I want it to sound, and I know how I can create it. Anyway,
and so
at 14 I started flute, and then 2 years later I started sax.
So what kind of music did you start off getting into at first? What inspired you? Like, what kind of music did you listen to and stuff to inspire you?
I'll tell you what, my first single when I was 12 was He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother.
Yeah.
He ain't heavy, he's my brother. And then the second single, my father was listening, he bought it for me, was Je t'aime moi non plus by Jean Birkin. And we were both in this record shop listening to the song, and when they started moaning, my father looked down at me and he just started to grin. And from there it went on to Led Zeppelin, and the Beatles and the Stones, but also very quickly into jazz and rock jazz, into Aldi Meola and Chick Corea, and
oh wow,
and all the really full-on rock jazz stuff, which I still love today.
Yeah. I imagine so, because I guess you got to a point where you're progressing, right? So the music progressed too. The music you're listening to and enjoying. That's interesting. That's great. When you started doing that, when did you start playing live with bands, or did you start writing music first? What did you do first?
Look, very quickly after I started playing flute, which was I had a music teacher, and my music, he was very much on my case to learn an instrument, and I never wanted to learn an instrument because I didn't want to sit around at home and practice.
Right.
But one day he came into music in my high school, and he gave me a flute and said, "This is for you, and my wife will give you lessons for free." And I just could not say no to him. So for 3 months I went every Wednesday to a lesson with her, and she taught me how to measure up my fingers and how to get a sound out of that thing. But it was boring for me. It was terribly boring. So after 3 months, I went to work on my school holidays and bought my own flute. And then I went back to him and said, "Thank you for getting me started," and gave him his flute back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just played along with my records. And at that time, my brother had a band, and they had a gig, and he let me come on stage towards the end of the gig and play a couple of songs, and I just jammed out. It was one of the most exciting experiences I ever had in my life.
Yeah.
But then I came off the stage, and then somebody says, "How long have you been playing?" I said, "Like 4 months." I'm very proud, and this guy said, "I could hear that putting me down," and that was one of the most painful experiences I ever had.
Yeah.
But anyway, I kept going, and then I kind of kept playing with people, and we had a youth hostel in Koblenz, in a town in Germany where I lived, and we used to hang out, playing outside the youth hostel, play music for the girls to come out, and that's how it was. A lot of practice for me there, waiting for the girls, and played a lot of music there. And then I had a little gig with some guitarists. Now there was a band in my town called Stiebel Eltron, and they were brilliant, absolutely brilliant, really rock jazz stuff, but brilliant musicians.
Yeah.
And they were like my heroes. And then after I'd been playing like a year or so, 1.5 years, they kicked their sax player out because he didn't show up for a gig.
Right.
And to my surprise, they came and asked me if I wanted to join the band. And I was in heaven.
Wow.
And then after a few months, they asked me to start to also play saxophone. So I bought this old beat-up saxophone for $80 in a music shop, and made it somehow play. For example, a year later, another sax player wanted to play on that horn, and he couldn't get a sound out of it. So it was a shitty sax, and I had no idea, and I still made it kind of work somehow.
Right on.
And then a few months later, they kicked me out of the band because I wasn't good enough, and there was one of my other most painful experiences in my life. I remember walking out of the rehearsal after they told me I was out, with my flute under my arm, and I almost threw it away, crying.
Yeah.
But I held on to it. I held on to the fucker. And then I put a new band together, and then we played a festival with that band, and that other band that had just kicked me out played after us, and we killed them. We actually killed them, and that helped me in my progression to keep going.
Wow, that's cool. And so, like, in other words, like, you showed them, right? That's good.
That was kind of it, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Kind of it.
Wow.
And I just kept playing, I just kept in many bands in all my life, and then started, it was about 20 years, my first big studio experience with the percussionist Chico from British Guyana. That was the first time I was in a real big recording studio and going through all of that experience. And I just kept going. I never stopped. That's the thing. I think that's the most important, is just keep going. Because you get better. So anything you do a lot, you get better at it.
Yeah. I agree with you. The more you do, the better you get at it. And the studio must, like, I like the studio a lot too, right? I mean, the studio is a great creative place to be, right? I really enjoy.
I love studio work, and especially now. I mean, in the old days, you needed to be a trillionaire to have a studio. So the studio experience back then was, if you had the money, you could squeeze 2 days in the studio. Yeah. And that was difficult because you could never really spend the time. But then when digital came in, and I created my own studio. So now I'm every day in my studio.
Yeah.
Do what I want to do.
Yeah, that's what I do. I spend like every day I write at least an hour a day, right? Even if it's crap, I just keep writing every day. And I tell younger people that too. I just say, you know what? Just keep writing every day, whether it's lyrics, music, a chorus, a bridge, whatever you can. Because you're right. The more you do, Wolf, the more you do, Hellmut, the better off you are, right? I mean,
that's correct.
Keep
going.
You just keep going.
And also, what I find for me personally very important is to be in the creative space.
Yeah.
And that space is like paradise for me. To be in a creative space is just the best environment possibly to be in.
Yeah, it is, because it just, it takes you to takes you to a place where you're yourself. Do you remember that song? I think what you're saying is you remember that song by the Beach Boys, "In My Room."
No.
There's a song by the Beach Boys Brian Wilson wrote. It's called "In My Room," and if you ever get a chance to listen to it, it's really cool. And it's all about him, and his imagination and writing music and sitting in his room, and nobody else is there but himself. Right? It's just like, yeah, it's like great song, and you just sit there and go, wow, yeah, that says a lot, right? Yeah, really good. So tell me what we can speed up a little later on in your life, and you played in bands, start doing studio stuff and that. When did you get into the business side of stuff? Is that after you did the roadie stuff? You sort of saw some other stuff going on where you looked at the other side of the music industry. How did that work?
Look, that was in Sydney, really.
Yeah.
When I signed with the label that we both know. I actually not going to say the name.
Yeah, we're not going to go there. Yes, let's not go there.
I worked for them as A&R for a while. But first I signed up as a musician.
Yeah.
So they distributed my music, which was a big thing for me back then because I'd never before had anybody who was interested in my music to get it on into the world. And then a little while later, they asked me to be A&R for them and find other bands, and I did that for a while. But that guy was just a complete crook who ripped me off and stole a lot of my money. And I saw him also ripping off musicians and artists,
Yes.
And not paying them and making promises and all kind of terrible stuff that you know and that you heard about in the music industry.
Yeah.
And then I went to start up another label, which was part of a telecom company in Australia, and there were a bunch of crooks too.
Oh,
and with both of them, I had court cases, and I won them both. And the second one actually had gone. The company that I had the court case with had gone bankrupt, so I never got paid out. And so it was a terrible experience for me, really. 3-4 years of lawyers and accountants and nightmare. And I had been 50 by that time. I had never in my life even spoken to a lawyer. It's not my world,
Yeah, exactly.
And suddenly, because of these pricks, I was pulled into this nightmare of ugliness. And then when I came through that, I said, fuck that, I'm going to start my own label. And I'm going to treat my musicians correctly. And that's now 9 years. Wolf Entertainment is going 9 years now, and actually now in December.
Yeah.
And religiously, religiously, every 3 months, my artists get their sales report. As per the deal, when they go over 100 euros, they get paid out. And I have a loving, fair relationship with my artists. Now, like 75 artists now on the label.
Wow.
That is my pride and joy.
Yeah, that's great. See, it sort of sounds like isn't that interesting? Like in your life's experience, it's sort of like what I'm getting is like, you go through some crap and then all of a sudden you come back out on the other end and you're better for it, right? It's kind of interesting how you bounce back, Hellmut. That's really, that says a lot to your character, right? I mean that just comes from me. I get it, because when you say, this happens to you, then you turn around and you come back the other way. That's great. Like, I mean, what can you say? I get you. I get you, like in the music industry, because, I mean, I remember once I did we were down in the States, and we were working with this guy down in the States, and he's really connected with a lot of people down in LA and stuff, and we did this big seminar with him, and he basically charged us more than what he should have at one point, right? But the thing was, this is how nice this guy is, technically. He gave me back the money that he overcharged me, and then he turned around and he apologized and said, I'm really sorry, because I actually really like your band, but I really like you a lot as a person. And you know what? I said, that's fine. I said, you know what? we're still friends and we can still work together because I said you were honest with me, right? You know,
Yeah.
I says you were honest with me.
That's great, and I tell you what, that's really rare in the music industry because there are so many pricks out there who
Yeah.
take advantage of the musicians. And you know, I call myself I'm a musician and a music producer
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Then the business side for me is number two, kind of, because that's not my nature.
Yeah.
I'm not, and I say I call these guys suits. You know, these guys who take advantage of musicians, who take advantage of their love for music, and who just in it for the money to rip off the love of the musicians for the music. And I just can't tell you how much I detest these people.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. And when I went to one seminar, I think was it 2 years ago, we went to a seminar, and there was suits, as you would say, everywhere. Like I mean, suits everywhere. And the thing was like some of the people in my band were not happy talking to the suits. Right? They were like, I don't like some of these people. And I said, I understand that, but you got to learn to coexist with them. But at the same time, I says you have to learn to keep your integrity, right? I says you have to, if you keep your integrity and you be nice to them, if they give you a hard time or try to rip you off, I says you got to be aware of those kind of things. I said, you know, that's the nature of the business. Sometimes people are not that nice, right? I said just in general, and if they can take advantage of you, I says they're going to take advantage of you.
They will.
And I says you just got to know that. You've got to be aware of that. I says there's, you know, I mean that even happens, you know, in this city, even like playing places like, you know, playing bars and stuff or playing small concerts, right? You know, I mean it's happened to me. I played a show 100 years ago somewhere, a big venue downtown, and one of our songs was getting airplay right across Canada and doing really well. And so the promoter offered us, you know, I think it was like, you know, 2,500 or something for the first, and if we got more people in the door, it was 4,000 for the night, and we packed the place. We packed the place, Hellmut, and then the next thing you know, I got 3,000. But I didn't get the 4, right? I didn't get that extra 1,000, and it was just like everybody in the band was going like, "What the hell happened here?" Like I says, "Well, she ripped us off at the gate, you know." She burned us, right? She burned us.
I'll tell you what, if you made 3,000 on a gig, you're still doing good.
Nowadays. Yeah, and I just...
Crazy people, man, these clubs and bars, they're asking musicians now to pay to play. It's like if you ask a plumber to come and fix your kitchen plumbing, and they pay you so that they can come to you and fix your plumbing, and that thing is so terrible. It's such a terrible thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, because of digital and streaming now, nobody pays for music anymore.
That's right.
And I think really people should think about what happens if there are no more musicians, if they don't exist because they can't feed themselves. There's no more music, and what the hell are you going to do then?
Yeah.
You know? And that's why I'm saying to everybody, forget about streaming. You like a song, pay that bloody dollar. It makes a difference to the musician.
Yeah.
It makes a difference to the producer, makes a difference to the label. Pay that bloody dollar for a song if you like it.
Yeah.
Instead of I'm okay.
No, I hear.
I do rattle on.
I know, but I hear you because that's so true, right? And like when we were at the seminar last year, a couple of years ago in LA, they were talking like you. Even the industry people are talking like that, right? I mean, they're talking like we're working on it. We're working on how we're going to get this back, right? And it's going to take us a while, but we're going to figure it out, right? And you know, slowly. Jay is one of the guys I talked to in Los Angeles. His name's Jay, and Jay said we're slowly figuring this out. It's going to take a while, but we're gonna not just bring the live shows back, but we're going to find a way to put money back in the pocket of everybody, right? And I think they will in time, because you know, you're right. People can't be musicians; they can't afford it. You know, I don't even know how some people do it. I know a few people that, you know, not signed to big labels or anything. I don't even know how they. I know a couple of musicians. I don't even know how they do it. I mean, beside maybe I know one guy, young guy, is 28, 29 years old, and he's been playing music for his whole life since he's been a kid. and he's a great player. But he's gone into producing and engineering, right? Because he has to figure a way to do something, right?
Why not? That's how I make my money, producing and engineering, and also slowly, because my name is a good name in the music industry. People know that I'm honest and I don't mess them around, and I tell them the truth, and I know what I'm talking about. So people come to me now and ask me for advice, or they ask me to be their touring advisor, or they ask me to put a tour together. So more and more stuff like this is happening in my world, which is great, because by just doing the label, I tell you what, in 9 years of running my label, I have not paid myself from the label.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because what comes in is just enough to pay the band. I pay them 60% for whatever they're making, plus the websites, the advertising, the marketing, the blah 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 blah, all the stuff that comes with it.
Right.
So I haven't paid myself in 9 years, but I have an amazing catalog, and that catalog now is starting to have a life of its own.
Good.
Into film music, into television, into concerts. Plus, I'm starting to really run my acts now on tours.
Yeah.
And that's where I still see where I can make some money next to producing and mastering and mixing and producing. Yeah.
Yeah, very good, very good. So, what's in the future for you? Like, what's your plans to go next? I bet you're that type of guy that just keeps rolling it out and keeps trying to keep it fresh. What else are you going to be doing?
Look, a big thing that happened for me was in the last 5 years, I moved back into Europe from Australia, where I lived 24 years. And I had become Australian during the time, and Germany didn't do dual citizenship, so I lost my German citizenship when I became Australian. But I missed Europe, and so I came back 5 years ago. And today, actually, I got my German passport back, so I'm
Congratulations.
European again. Which is really, really, really nice for me, because when you have residency and you have to go for, it's like I've gone through 2 immigration nightmares. Moving to Australia was an immigration nightmare, and then moving back to Europe was another immigration nightmare. Today it's finished. Actually, literally today, I got my passport back.
Wow, way to go! Congratulations, that's
German
great.
Passport, thank you. And so what I'm doing is working on many, many, many levels. I'm managing 3-4 acts, and that's very exciting. I'm, of course, running the label and promoting the label and helping everybody on the label to grow and to get bigger and to get bigger. And I'm focusing a lot now on touring for our artists, because that's where they can still make a bit of money.
Yeah.
Where with music sales, it's like almost now you redo an album and it's a calling card for a possible tour.
Yeah.
It's not anymore something where you're making money. So I'm focusing on touring, on television, on film, and a real one-stop shop. Any film director comes to me and says, I want to have music for this film, I have it. Because we have 75 plus artists in all the different genres, and what we don't have, we can create. So moving into production for film, television more, and touring, and promotion, of course.
Very good, very good.
Musicians out there.
And so, how's the music industry over in Europe? Because we hear a lot over there, over here on this side, about what's going on. Like in the U.S., the live music scene is still there. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it was, but it is still there. There's quite a bit of live music still in the U.S. But in Canada, Canada is like totally the opposite. Like Canada's really dried up quite a bit, right? I mean, it's still there, but it's on life support. Let's put it to you that way.
Yeah, look, Europe is still a good place for live music, and what's the massive difference in Europe is the audience has actually how to say it, they actually listen to music. I remember when I went to Australia and I had my first gig down there, and we were playing, it was a reggae band or something, and we're starting to play, and nobody was listening. They're all chatting up girls, they're sitting on tables, they're all talking to each other, and the music was kind of the background, like a radio or something. Whereas in Europe, the audiences are on a much higher level in terms of giving appreciation and giving attention to the artist.
Right.
So Europe is still culturally shitting all over the rest of the world.
Very interesting. Yeah, because I have a friend who lives in UK, lives in London. He's a musician himself, really great musician. He played over here for like, he lived in Vancouver for like, maybe, I don't know, 20 years or so, and been in Canada for at least 30, and he just moved back about 5, 7, 8 years ago, and he was saying like parts of UK is really weird. He says there's parts of UK there's lots of music, and then there's parts of UK where there's nothing. But he says you go to France, you go to Germany, there's lots of music. He said he says that's the way it is. He says it's funny too. He says London, he says you can't find hardly any live shows. He says it's all pop, and it's not, there's not a lot of live stuff. He says, but then you go up the northern part of the UK, and he says, and there's tons of music, right? So he says it just varies, he said, right? But here in Canada, it's the opposite. You might have, I think in Vancouver we have like maybe 10 live venues, maybe if that, maybe 10, and not all the time, you know what I mean? Like the venues are not going all the time, right? So it's kind of interesting. It's trying to come back. It's trying to bounce back. You can see it. It's trying to bounce back, but it's not coming. It's not coming back as fast as it can, right? You know what I mean? There's more acts than there is venues to play. That's for sure.
That's where the club owners, because the musicians need a place to play, they can say, okay, you want to play here, you got to pay for it, and I find it so ugly. I find it extremely ugly. The same is in Australia now, like in Sydney in the late '90s. I had 4 or 5 gigs a week. Yeah. I had a full-time job too in an events company doing lighting and audio and stuff for corporate events, but. I had 4 or 5 gigs a week, and then they killed the red light district. They killed the King's Cross. And now it's like this in Sydney. From what I heard, is the pubs they need to pay $60,000 a year to get a live music license.
Wow,
fucking crazy. That is just completely
that's insane.
The live music scene, and that's just by stupid, fucked up politicians who don't get it up anymore. And I can't tell you that I hate these people.
That's just like in Vancouver they have a noise bylaw, right? By 10 o'clock you can't have any loud music.
I know.
I had
so in Australia, in Melbourne, I lived a couple of years in Melbourne. There was a place called a noise bar, and I played there 2-3 times a week. And after 10 o'clock, you start with the sound meter, and if it's over 100 dBs, then they come and say, "Oh, the noise police is going to come." Bullshit, it's just a lot of crap.
I know. It's kind of weird how that's all kind of come about. But I like I said, I hope it bounces. Like here, I hope it bounces back. But there's for live music, there's a lot of interest. I mean, I just did a show downtown about a week and a half ago, and it was a great show. We did really good, and there was lots of people, and there were three bands, and actually the sound man was it was excellent, and he's actually from New Zealand, and his name is Nate, and he has a great band, and he records, and he's got a really good band himself. He just came back from playing Japan. And he said it was great in Japan. He says, you guys, and Vancouver's got this connection growing now with Japan. So this is interesting. So that, there's a...
Yeah, good.
But it's a...
When you're in Vancouver, you need to meet Henry Brown.
You know what? I know Henry really well, actually.
You know him?
I know Henry very well. I know Henry for up to 20 years. 30, more than that, 30 years.
That's so great, because Henry's on the label, and we're just about to release a new single for him. And
he's a great musician.
He's a dear friend.
Oh, he's a great musician. I used to play in this one cover band about 30 years ago, and my his light man was our light man. So we had the same. Yeah, so we had the same light man, and so I would go to some of his shows and hang out with the light man, and I got to know Henry really well. Yeah. Henry's Jimi Hendrix's cousin. You know that, right?
I know.
Isn't that wild?
I know. No, we speak often. We're good friends for many years, since many years.
Yeah,
I've never met actually in person. I can't wait to hang out with him. But he's such a great musician, artist, producer, you name it.
Yeah, he's really good. He's really good, and he can get the funk out. That's for sure. He's got the funk down. That's for sure. I mean, he can play funk like nobody's, like nobody I see. He's in Vancouver. He's really, really good, and you know what? You're right. He's actually got a great personality, and anybody I talk to says he's a great guy. Nice person,
Yes.
great person, and I find him the same way when I've talked to him. He's always been very nice and nice to talk to, and I like watching him play. Yeah, he's one of the better players in the city, that's for sure. He definitely is.
Yeah, and great performer, great singer, great producer.
Yeah, he is.
Have you heard his new album, Lost City?
No, I've heard about it though. I
Yeah.
gotta take a listen.
You gotta check it out. It's
Right
wonderful
on,
album.
right on. Well, I appreciate your time. We're just about wrapping this up. Hellmut,
Okay.
it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I mean I mean that. I really do like talking to you, and
Thanks for me.
I'm going to keep you closer to me now, just to chit
That
chat.
would be nice. I remember back when I was in Australia, we had a very close relationship.
We
so
did.
It went a little bit off the loop for me, but it's nice to reconnect.
Yes, and we'll reconnect. I'm not just saying that. We will. We'll connect, and we'll talk in the new year, maybe a little bit more. And I'll get.
I would like that.
I know, I would too. We'll connect, and I'll send you some of our stuff. I got 2 bands going now. I got a blues band, sort of rocky blues, and I got the Twitch still going, and it's changed. So I've changed the music's changing. So it's kind of refreshing actually. We're in the studio next week, so it's going to be interesting to see what comes out. It's brand new song, and we're changing too. We're changing the way we're our style's sort of changing, and it's not because we want it to. It's sort of changing, and we're kind of excited. We're going, oh look, we're changing direction. This should be interesting.
Good. Are you still working with that prick in Australia?
No.
Good.
No,
Good on you.
No, not working with him. Only guy I work with on the side is Jay in L.A. The guy I was telling you about, because he's such a nice guy. He became our publisher for a while, and he doesn't. The publishing thing is up now with him, but we stay connected, and we always talk. I'm like you. He's a very nice man, so he always talks to me about the industry, and he's always interested to see what we're up to and stuff. And if he can help us out, he says, "I'll help you out. I've known you for too long." And he originally lived in Bellingham, right? So he lived in Bellingham, Washington, as a kid, and his parents were worked for the embassy, in the U.S. So he traveled all around the world, right? So he knows everything, and he goes to all these conferences. You've probably even seen him at a conference somewhere, in Europe. He goes to meet them. He's been everywhere, right? So every year he goes to about 4 or 5 conferences, and he's got it going on. And he's like I said, nice person like you. It's nice to talk to people who are involved in the industry, but they're people. You know what I mean? Like that's what I look for, those kind of people, because they're better to be around, right?
Well, thank you, brother. It's been a pleasure to talk to you and reconnect, and
we'll reconnect.
I'd like to keep the connection going, man.
Yeah, let's keep the connection going. I'll talk to you soon, okay, Hellmut? And Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Protocol. Bye.
Izzy Dakota Jones, and we were talking to and hanging out with Hellmut Wolf, and very interesting conversation. It was great to talk to him. I haven't talked to him for quite a while, and I'm glad he's doing well with his Wolf Digital Entertainment and everything like that, and his music and his art. And it was fun talking to Hellmut. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. This is Izzy Dakota Jones with The Art of Doing. Take care.